All right, everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. You can all start taking your seats. Thank you, everyone. Let's take our seats. We're gonna get started. Thank you all for your patience, for finding the new location. We really appreciate your flexibility tonight. All right, the staff's asking for everyone to take their seats so they can get around. Thanks, everyone. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Nancy Fry. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the president of the Broward Young Democrats. So in case you don't know where you are tonight. So we're going to rearrange our evening a little bit since we wanted to make time for everyone to get over here. So we're not going to do our normal icebreaker, but it looks like everyone's been talking and chatting amongst yourselves anyways, so I'm really glad to see that. Normally we start off our meetings with a moment of silence. We're not going to do that tonight because if you're here, you know about the SCOTUS leaked draft decision that happened last week and the attack on reproductive rights. And this is not a time to be silent because people will die, women will die, pregnant people will die. And we can't be silent about that. We need to make sure we're raising our voices, and we need to make sure that we are addressing anybody in our political sphere that is going to attack everyone's bodily autonomy and reproductive rights. So we'll talk about that some more tonight, I'm sure, with our legislative update. In the meanwhile, I also want to acknowledge our first BYD endorsed candidate for 2022, Clay Miller, for Florida House 101. So he'll come up and speak at the end of the meeting, but we want to make sure that we acknowledge him. And for any other candidates that are here tonight that want a BYD endorsement, please come find me or any of the board members during or after the meeting, and we'll get you the link to our questionnaire. And once you fill out the questionnaire, the board will vote on all of the rest of our endorsed candidates for 2022. And also for anyone that's not currently a member and is interested in signing up for a membership, check any of our social media, check our emails, check our website, and we will get you set up with a membership. We have 3 membership levels: student for anyone 18 and under, a general membership for all of those Young Democrats 40 and under, and our Young at Heart for those lovely people that still want to support the Young Democrats, but you yourself are not a Young Democrat. So with that, yes, and we will announce all of our dignitaries here tonight. Let's see if I can read the screen, because I'm still a Young Democrat, I can read small font stuff. So we have tonight, obviously we have our 3 panelists here. We have Senator Lauren Book, Representative Dan Bailey, and Representative Darrell Campbell. We have Sean LaHockey, and I cannot see what you're here representing. Oh, with Senator Book. There we go. We have the wonderful Mayor Antonio Arcerio, who got us this secondary location tonight, so thank you for that. We have school board member Nora Rupert here, representing District 3. We have John Moreno Escobar, candidate for Broward County School Board. We have Kim Schnitzius here, the president of the West Broward Democratic Women's Club, and here representing Dan Bailey's office. And we have Daniel Malieri here, representing Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and secretary for the Broward Democratic Party. So I apologize if I missed anybody, but I don't think. Oh, and I see Mr. Michael Albede here on behalf of the Office of Marty Key, property appraiser. And we have Ian Dunn, the National Committee Man for the Florida Young Democrats. All right, and with that, I think we're just going to go ahead and get started with our panel. What do we think? Sorry, one more candidate. And we have Raymond Adderley here, also candidate for school board, and Howard for Congress. All right, so if you want to go ahead, without further ado.
Do you have percentage?
You're not ready?
I just need to keep
Well, you can stand when you talk, or if you want to stand the whole time, it's up to you. We just wanted the chairs to make sure you were comfortable. All right, so as we already announced who everyone here is. So I'll just give you all each a few minutes to just talk about what session was like for you, and then we'll go into questions. So we have regular session and special session. Just tell us what it was like, and we will do ladies first with the minority.
Thank you guys so much, and we're very excited to be here. I know that it's been a rough few days to be a woman in the state of Florida, but we are ready to fight, and we are very, very activated, and we're angry, and we're ready to do what needs to be done. But let's talk a little bit about the legislative session and the special session and the special session, and probably another special session in addition to that. So people know that are maybe here or maybe watching, we have one job typically every session, and that is to pass a balanced budget in 60 days. That's the job, that's what we're charged to do. This year during redistricting, it was to pass fair maps and to pass a budget, neither of which we could do on time. Why? Because we were waging culture wars in the state of Florida. At no point did anyone on the Republican side choose to care about what was important to everyday Floridians. We were fighting about taking away a woman's right to choose and ensuring that they were ensuring that if you were a survivor of rape, incest, or human trafficking, that you didn't have a say in what happened to your body. They were busy making sure that if you were in the LGBTQ community, you weren't able to be recognized in a classroom for your children. They were working to make sure that we didn't talk about things that make people feel uncomfortable in the Stop Woke Act, passing really draconian immigration bills, and while we have a lot of vacancies in law enforcement positions throughout the state of Florida, setting up their own elections police, all of which they billed as the most important issues facing Floridians. And I don't know about each and every one of you, but I know that my Senate colleagues, as well as the caucus in the House, have spent every moment of every day since we've been home and before that asking their constituents what are the things that are important to them. And I can assure you it wasn't taking away a woman's right to choose, disallowing teachers to talk to their children about LGBTQ parents that may be in the classroom. It's about property insurance. It's about paying for prescriptions. It's about being able to pay and put dinner on the table, making sure that they have a roof over their head. Those are the things that are facing Floridians every single day. And they were too busy trying to pass dangerously bad bills to hurt Floridians. And we were busy fighting back against those terribly bad policies while also fighting for very important things. And some of those things have passed, and hopefully we'll be able to talk a little bit about those. But we couldn't get the work done in the regular session, and so we had to go into a special session, which you may have seen on redistricting. And let's make no mistake about what the governor did, and I'm going to let my House colleagues talk a little bit about this because I think they just had a really impressive show of force when they were doing some of the fighting back that they did in the House. But the governor passed racist congressional maps that dilute minority voices in Congress. Let's make no mistake about that. Let's not pretend that he did anything other than that. And because he thinks that Floridians are too stupid to pay attention to what's actually going on, the day that we were set to begin that special session, he announced a very punitive measure to take away the special taxing district in Disney. Why? Because they spoke out about Don't Say Gay. So let's not mistake what is actually happening here in the state of Florida. Governor DeSantis wants to hurt Floridians while all of us want to make sure that Floridians have a voice and a place here in the state of Florida. We're going back next week? Next week for another special session on property insurance, 2 weeks. And there's a lot of rumors about things that may be added to that call and things that want to happen. And let's be very, very clear. And I know that we're talking in here and hopefully on the internet to those who are a part of our tribe, right? But if the governor decides in all of his infinite wisdom to add open carry, constitutional carry, to do anything to bust our unions, which he has talked about in paycheck protection, to further limit access to abortion, there is not a whole hell of a lot that we can do to stop it. And that's why we need to activate, we need to motivate and get ready for November, because that's the only way that we can have more strong Democrats in the Senate and in the House to make sure that we can stop these terribly bad policies from occurring. And so as the leader of the Senate Democrats, that's my job, that's our charge, and we're working really hard to get that done. So we need people registering to vote, get people excited about coming out to stop what's happening and the course and path that we're on. But with that, I'm going to hand it over to my two favorite my two favorite panelists here to talk about the House and some of the things that went on for session for them.
Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is State Representative Darrell Campbell, the second newest member on the House. So I'm proud to have gotten the newest member out the way. But one of the questions that I get asked most of the time is, how has it been? I tell them it's been a wild roller coaster. Me getting there was a fight just to get me seated. If you paid attention, they weren't even going to seat me when I got there. So we had to make up some noise behind the scenes to develop that. And so that was tiring within itself. And then once we got in, I couldn't get any bills in, I couldn't get any appropriations in because the deadline had passed. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of the work gets done well before we get into session. And so the governor knew what he was doing when he set the election dates the way he did, so that when I did come in, it was nothing I can do as far as passing bills and passing appropriations. But because I am a social worker and I can get creative and think outside the box, I had great colleagues like my man to the left here, Representative Daly, pushing things on behalf of my community as far as appropriations go, and also Nika Umford did it for other areas in my district, and a lot of representatives pitched in to really see that the funding for our communities were there. And so when I got in, all I had to do was play the game of find the money, and I went ahead, found the money, and I helped to push it so that we could get more fully funded for those things that were already put in place. And so that was the fun part. I got to learn all that, and that's why I said it's a wild roller coaster, because by the time I learned what I had to do and figure out when I needed to push it, it was actually that day where I was like, hey team, we need to go talk to these people. You can ask Minority Leader Book. I was at the Senate, and they were at the podium, Senate presidents at the podium, throwing my budget items around and trying to help push it too. So, I talked to everybody to try to get that work done. And so it was amazing just learning that. And it's still amazing because I'm learning more and more as I go. And I'm learning that it's just not focusing on my district, but also stepping outside of my district. I've been to Clewiston several times, learning that community, learning what the affordable housing looks like for them. I just came from NASA literally like a few minutes ago, learning what they're doing over there in the government projects, learning things in my community as far as the Port Everglades and $38 billion that they're bringing in to keep our economy running. And so it's a lot of things that's being put into place that I'm learning about. And so, sometimes elections are tiring, especially for my district, because I feel like all we've been doing for the past month and a half is just voting, but we can't get tired, we can't get complacent. We just gotta keep on pushing. We gotta get our friends involved, we gotta get their friends involved, and get a group of 10 people and have them get a group of 10 people and have them get a group of 10 people, and let's start this circle of bringing people to the polls. And it's going to come down to us pushing that individually, but we have to get people to the polls, and we have to get out there and vote, because if we don't, we're going to see the same issues and the same fight that we're dealing with right now. And as we all know, elections have consequences, and so we want to change the outcomes of these elections moving forward, and we have the opportunity. There are so many available seats that vote our way, and we just have to get good candidates in those seats up and down the state. And so I'm working to knock on doors with candidates up and down the state, and so that's my push while running for my own election. So we got to get out there, we got to keep the fight going. But I'm glad to be amongst these established vets, and really learning from their actions and continuing to help my community out. So thank you.
Good evening, everybody. First and foremost, thank you for coming. This is a heck of a turnout, and a testament to the president, and especially with the move over to this restaurant. So round of applause. Now, I will say we talked. Both of my colleagues talked about motivating in November and getting people to the polls, and yes, that's very important. But I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you for next month's meeting. I want you to come back to next month's meeting, and I want you to bring at least one friend. And then the next month, I want you to bring another friend. And I want them to bring a friend. Because that is the only way that we're going to actually build the momentum that we need. Because Broward County, look, and Kim in my office, and Sarah is here as well. Kim and Sarah are awesome. Wave, everybody. Kim was at the rally on Saturday. If you were able to join us in downtown Fort Lauderdale, Kim made a really important point. So goes Broward, so goes the state of Florida, right? And on a national level, so goes the state of Florida, so goes the country, right? We hear that every presidential cycle, but it's actually true. If we could motivate enough turnout in Broward County, we can turn this state. And you know what? Time has passed for us to wait for other people to do that. So let's have the YDs do that. Yeah? So that's the challenge. Next meeting, you're going to need a bigger venue, Madam President. Bring somebody. Now, the question was, what was session like? Well, folks, this was my 3rd session as a member. My 7th session total when you add up my time as a legislative aide, and I will tell you, it is, and not to put a damper on the mood, but it's painful. It's painful because, as the leader said, we don't focus on the issues that y'all care about. We don't focus on the issues important to the average Floridian sitting down at their dining room table right now, worrying about a 200% increase in their property insurance, worrying about an 800% increase in their rent. Right? Talking about how they're going to find a job, how they're going to pay their bills, how they're going to put food on the table, any of those issues. We haven't focused on those. And so when it comes to the special sessions, that's where I get annoyed. Because we have 60 days. We have 60 days, and while that doesn't seem like a lot of time, right, that's a lot of time. And if they really wanted to focus in on these issues, we could. We're going back to Tallahassee in a week and a half on property insurance. We're going to slam something through. By the way, it's not going to be earth-shattering.
Sorry.
I'm just going to be honest. They're going to pass something so that they can say that they passed something. But it's not going to solve the property insurance crisis in the state. But with 60 days and a conversation, maybe we actually could have done something to impact the system. Because right now, by my count, we've lost five or six insurers in just the last 2 months. Citizens is ballooning. I can't tell you, I just saw one of my constituents the other day said his property insurance went up by $4,000. Another one, $1,500 on a single family home, right? Something has to be done, but these are the issues that we're not focused on. You know what we are focused on? Fighting with a mouse, right? You know what we are focused on? The governor's presidential ambitions. And I mentioned this on Saturday. Unfortunately, that has come on the backs of African American community in our state, the LGBTQ community in this state, women in this state and across this country. That is what we're dealing with in Tallahassee. So I don't mean to be doom and gloom, but when they have the numbers that they have, particularly in the House, right, it's very hard. They almost have a supermajority. And folks, I worked for the state the last time they had a supermajority. It can happen, and it is not a fun experience. The rules don't matter. Generally, the rules don't matter to them. But the rules really don't matter when they can just waive the rules and do whatever they want. Pass any bill right through committee. Has it been heard in committee? No problem. We're going to put it right on the floor. Right for a vote. So it matters more now than ever. Because we have to, one, hold off that supermajority. Two, we need to be calculated. We need to try and elect Democrats in other parts of the state. Broward's important. We need to turn out in Broward, just like you heard me start off with. But we've got a colleague, Representative Andrew Learned in the Tampa area. He is the most dangerous, he's in the most dangerous seat. And without our help, he may lose that seat to a Republican, giving them one step closer to a supermajority. And there are a handful of other seats at play in this state, but it's going to take your time, your effort. Yes, you, sitting in Margate, sitting in Coconut Creek, sitting in Hollywood, sitting in Fort Lauderdale, on your phone, making phone calls for that candidate, because that's how we're going to get that person elected, so we can finally start to turn the tide in Tallahassee. So with that, I want to thank you all for being here. I'm looking forward to the rest of the panel. If you need anything from me or Miss Sarah and Kim are awesome. Sarah's with me in Tallahassee and keeps me out of trouble. Kim is brand new and she's awesome and already getting to every event in the county. I'm not really sure how she does it. But thank you for having us, and thank you all for being here and for what you do.
Thank you. And so, in a few minutes, we'll take some questions from the crowd. I just wanted to do a couple questions up front because, first of all, before I even do that, Representative Daly reminded me that I did not talk about our next meeting. If you notice, one of our panelists is not here tonight. Senator Shelburne Jones was supposed to be here. For any of you that saw our earlier advertising. Sorry? Oh, the leader is giving him a demerit. I will let him know. But this might make it up. He is going to sponsor next month's meeting, which will be a social down in Hollywood. We'll finalize the venue before we announce it this time. We'll make sure the venue's actually settled. But it will be down in Hollywood, and it will be sponsored by Senator Jones, so that's making up for him not being here tonight. So you'll have to demerit. And so, as Representative Daly said, bring your friends, because this one's going to be fun, and hopefully it's slightly less depressing than tonight. Anyway, so the reason I picked these legislators specifically is because they are our Broward Young Democratic legislators. They're actual whiteys. So I just wanted to give a question to each of you that spoke a little more on your experience as a young Democrat. So starting off with Representative Campbell, since this was your first session, you touched on it some, but I'd like you to go into a little bit more about what it's like as a newcomer, and especially as a newcomer midway through session, where you were just kind of thrown in the deep end. Just touch on that for a minute or two about what it's like.
Well, thank you for that, Madam President. This getting just thrown in, it can be intimidating. For me, I had great support. Thankfully, while I was campaigning, I was always reaching out to representatives and senators alike, just letting them know that I'm running and would like to connect and have that conversation. So I already kind of set up that map for when I wanted to already have that conversation piece in working with them. And so thankfully, the representatives were open enough to speak to me. And so when you get there, it's a lot being thrown at you. First day, you don't remember. Everybody comes up to you, they say, "Oh my God, congratulations." Like I think after the first day, I was seeing new representatives come in. I was like, "Oh, I'm not the new guy," and but no, that person been here, that person been here. So you get that, and then you're just learning like the process. You're shocked by the events because it's amazing to be on the floor and to be representing people, and so it's surreal. But at the same time, I had to snap out of it because I needed to hurry up, get my team together. I needed to get my office in order. I needed to figure out where to go to get my things so that my community can reach out to me. And so it was challenging, but thankfully my past experience as a legislative aide helped me in figuring out where the bathrooms were and all that. So I was prepared in that sense, and so it was something I had to tell myself to take a step back. Just do one step at a time, because you can only do one thing at a time, and because there's multiple things are going down at one time. And so I had a great team that helped me, that walked me through. Our analyst team, I was in their office early in the morning, after our committees, even during committees, I'm back there asking questions and trying to figure out what's going on, because there are times where there are issues that just don't impact your community. And so learning that was also another challenging thing, and things that I made notice of. And so meeting everybody, letting people know that I'm here, and I'm here to listen to you, listen to your issues, and everybody that came up to Tallahassee, I thank you, because that was such a warm feeling, because being away from home is scary, and so especially for that long period of time. And so seeing y'all come up and fight the good fight with us was so empowering and so well needed towards my ability to continue to fight for you on your behalf. So.
Thank you. All right, next question for Representative Daly. So you started out as a legislative aide, and then you went on to city commission, and then as a representative yourself. Just talk us through that process a little bit of being a young elected, or starting off working for an elected and then being a young elected yourself, and that kind of path that you took.
Well, thank you. And so it's hard to believe, but actually this November, I've been blessed to be an elected official for 10 years. I was elected the first time in 2012. My hair looked vastly different, fewer grays, and I like to think it was less receded. But I'll tell you, look, anybody that is interested, and obviously all of us are interested maybe to different extents in politics and government and public service. If you have that interest, particularly the younger folks that I met earlier, the seniors, going off to UCF, and UF, don't hold it against the UF guy.
Go Gators.
Get involved, right? Get involved. Come to meetings like this, work on campaigns, get to know your elected officials, because at the end of the day, we're just people, right? I mean, my title and $5 gets me a cup of coffee at Starbucks, right? And so reach out and say, hey, you're my mayor, you're my city commissioner, you're my state representative, state senator, you're my member of Congress. How can I get involved with you? Whether that's volunteering on their campaign, which by the way, they'll never forget, because I don't know about you, but city commission races, if you ever run for city commission, they're not sexy. Right? Not everybody's like banging on your door, be like, hey, can I go knock on doors for you? No, like the governor's race, presidential race, those are sexy, right? Everybody wants to work on those. You get 2 volunteers to go knock on doors for you for a city commission race, that person will never forget you. I can tell you exactly who came out on my first door knocking day and where they are, and I still keep in touch with them, and I still appreciate all they did, and I bought like 7 pizzas for 5 people, right? So you never forget that. But so what I would say is, one, if you're interested at any level, get involved, right? Daniel knows, Sarah knows, all these folks have started in the process as legislative staff, and you gain the knowledge, you build the relationships, because at the end of the day, this is a 99% relationship business, right? Are you able to communicate with people? Are you able to communicate your beliefs and your thoughts and what you want to accomplish? That's what it takes. And so, for me, it's been a tremendous honor to start as an aide, and then be able to represent my hometown on the city commission for 7 years, and now work with these fine folks up in Tallahassee on behalf of all Floridians. Because let's face it, it's our districts that represent us, but we are Florida state representatives, Florida state senators. We're trying to think through, and should be thinking through things on a statewide scale, how we can make this state better for everybody, regardless of party. Also, right? I don't care when you come to me or come to my office with an issue, I don't ask. There's no litmus test. I don't ask if you voted for me. I don't ask if you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, right? But at the end of the day, we should all be working together, and we need more of that. The only way to do that in Tallahassee is to establish some more balance. And that's why meetings like this and groups like this are so very, very important. So I don't know if that answered the question perfectly, but I'm going to end it with this. Thank you for being here, and don't forget the challenge to bring people next meeting.
When you came to my office, I did have the litmus test. I asked you who looked better, me or Dan, because our offices were exactly right next to it. And if you said yes for me, then you were more than welcome to step into my office.
Which is also why my office had a line out the door.
Alright, boys. Thank goodness we're going to a woman next to answer a question. So for Senator Book, my question to you. You're a mother of young children. That's an issue very near and dear to my heart. We have another board member that also has young children. And just please talk to us about that experience. We know it's one thing to have kids as an elected official. It's another thing to be a woman and have kids as an elected official. And just tell us what that's been like for you.
So that's a very good question. And so I first have to say, it takes a village, and I certainly have a village, and I feel very blessed to have a village. And I got to meet your 2 beautiful kids this weekend, and I consider this process to have allowed to create a village, but to give my kids an extended family. It is extraordinarily difficult, though, to be a woman in this process, and it is extraordinarily difficult to have young children as a part of this process. When my 2 kids were born, 2 weeks after that, I was up for my very first legislative session. I still had stitches from my C-section. And I will never forget what that was like, and that difficulty. I'll say, because I didn't acknowledge Sean Lahaki, who's here from my office. There's a couple of prerequisites, not who's the cutest to get into my door. You have to be able to tolerate some level of chaos and noise to come and enjoy any time with us in my office. And if you want to work in my office, you have to be able to tolerate kids running around and peanut butter and jelly oftentimes on papers and drafts and other things. I would say that it does also bring an intense level of on your gamedness that you need. Because I try really hard to give my kids time and attention for a window of time of the day, and that is not phones, not anything else, and sometimes that happens and sometimes that doesn't. But I think that all the women in this room who have children and who work and do the things that we do every day, it's a balance, and I constantly, when I wake up in the morning, I ask myself, who can I afford to disappoint the least today? And how do I balance what that is? And what does that look like for me and for my family? And sometimes I get it right, and sometimes I don't, and sometimes the balance works, and sometimes it doesn't. But I also try to keep a tremendous amount of sense of humor about things too. So it's definitely difficult. It's a village that requires it, and I would be remiss if I also didn't shout out my little table here of compatriots. Claire Van Susteren, who makes my life a tremendous amount easier. Auntie Claire, as my kids call her, who just helps me make it work. And Kayla, actually, Francis, from Senator Pizzo's office, who oftentimes does pinch hitting when we don't have anybody or a boylist somewhere else and my kids are in the office. And that is that village that I talk about. And members become a part of that village. Those who are in and around that process become a part of that village. And at the end of the day, I know that I bring a different perspective to the process as a young mom. That's the last part I'll say about this. When I came to the Senate, I served with a lot of great people, a lot of men who were more, leaning towards grandparents' age than children. And so, when I was having to change diapers in a bathroom without a changing table, we wanted to look at building code to understand why there weren't changing tables in bathrooms, in men and women's bathrooms, and talking about making sure that there was access to a place for women to breastfeed. Those are just issues that when you're going through that time and in that place, it makes more sense. And so it's definitely fun and it's definitely a balance, but I'm definitely more gray than when I started.
What two big issues did you pass as a mom this session?
Oh, so the two big issues that we worked on this session and was actually I started it when I first got to the session, and that was a tax exemption on diapers. I figured out that hopefully that I would pass that bill before I was in incontinence products. Luckily it passed before that happened. My kids are out of diapers now. But people don't realize that 1 in 3 families suffer from diaper need, that there are people that keep their kids in diapers longer than they would rather do that than not, because they have to make some of those decisions about dinner or buying another pack of diapers. People don't understand that. Food stamps don't cover diapers. And so that was one that was really big and exciting. And the other one was one that was, that we had been working on as well, was covered Medicaid expansion to cover human donor breast milk for those preemies that are most vulnerable. And so those are two that, again, those issues that we continue to work on that relate to families and kids that are just really special to me.
Thank you. And just a point that I would like to make on top of what Senator Brooks said about it taking a village. Think about the young moms around you that have their kids here. I know we have one of our board members brought her daughter tonight, which I love. Children are always welcome at PYD meetings. I know I've heard some experiences recently that people have had in other meetings that that's not the case. And I would encourage all of you, if you see something like that happening, step in for that young parent that might be too nervous or too scared to say something, and to assert their right and their dignity to have their children with them, because that's the only way we're going to keep bringing people in, is if we're not gatekeepers and saying, if you have a young kid, you're not allowed here. And another point that I just want to make real quick is something I'd heard a while back that someone had offered. If you see a candidate you really like that has young children, and you can't afford to donate to their campaign, or you can't afford to necessarily give a bunch of time to go canvassing, offer to babysit, offer to cook a meal for them. Do those other things that they don't have the time to do because they're busy out running a campaign. Those are things that sound really small but can be a huge help. Alright, so one more question for me, I promise, and then we'll get to questions from the crowd. This one's for all three of you. It's primarily for Minority Leader Book, but I do want to hear all three of you on this topic. and it's about the elephant in the room, so to speak, of we have one Republican still in Broward County that we're looking to oust, and we have other legislators throughout the state, and I'm not going to go into names because we don't need more Sun Sentinel articles about our party, but that are not voting in line with specifically women's reproductive rights and reproductive rights in general, because not just women get pregnant. What are we going to do about that? to put it succinctly, what are we doing as far as making sure that we're supporting Democrats that are running for those Republican seats? What are we doing about, do we call out our own party if someone's not voting the way that we need them to, that's in line with our party stance? What do we do with these people that want to claim a D next to their name and want to claim that they're Team Blue and that they're Democrats, but they're not gonna actually vote for things on the party platform? I understand we're a big tent party and there's areas for disagreement, but when you're voting against a main tenet of our party platform, I think that's a different thing altogether. I'd like to hear the leader first about this, but I'd like to hear Representative Campbell and Representative Daly as well.
It's a very good question, and you know, we didn't have that issue in particular as it relates to a woman's right to choose in our caucus. I know that is something that's on the other side, and but I would suggest that while yes, we are a big tent, and we have a lot of varying kind of beliefs and opinions, whether you're talking about, you know, school choice or any of the myriad of other things. But there are some of those core tenets and beliefs that we must hold true to. And so I think that is an important thing. And when you have people who either they're with you or against you on those issues, and I think that is an important thing that we recognize. How do we continue to do the work to get strong, good Democrats elected to both bodies? I can talk about the Florida Senate. We have a slate of candidates right now that I am so proud of, and I am so excited about. I am so excited about the path that we have in November, and I want to, if I can, just for a couple of minutes talk about some of those candidates and the path that we are on to get them there. One of the things that has happened in the past is we talk about great candidates and we talk about getting people to vote and we do the polling and we do the walking, but what else have we done, right? I think a lot of us have been talking about getting people registered to vote and, you know, doing different volunteer events to make that happen. What I really did not want to do when I became the leader was find these kick-ass candidates and then put them on a path where there was no success. And so for the first time ever in the history of both caucuses, the Senate and the House both put in our base budgets money to pay canvassers to go out and get people to register to vote. Nowhere in the history of our time, we have not done voter registration the way that we should have since Barack Obama came into office. We're losing our numbers hand over fist to Republicans. And what I didn't want to do is, we can talk about how tough it is up there, and we do, but also how it's not the most fun thing to be in elected office. And so what I really did not want to do was to get these great candidates and put them on a path where they wouldn't find success. And so we have 5 targeted areas in the state that we are working very hard and have a huge amount of resources, monetary and otherwise, to create that path to success for them. Now, who are these kick-ass candidates that I'm so excited about? Let me tell you. Number 1, Janelle Perez. And with redistricting, the numbers are all crazy, but let me tell you about Janelle Perez. Janelle Perez is running to replace Senator Annette Taddeo, who is running for governor. Janelle is a fighter at the core of who and what she is. She is a survivor of blood cancer, was told she was going to die, fought back against that cancer, is completely in remission. She is smart, she is determined, a first-generation Cuban American who cares deeply about healthcare, making sure that people have the ability to not just pay for their healthcare, but to make sure that they can live a life while they're doing that, which is important. She and her wife just had their second baby girl, so she has young children and knows what that is, understands equality better than anybody. Smart, 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 and I am so excited and proud to have her as a candidate and know that she is going to just kick some butt come November. Our second candidate in that area, Representative Grieco, coming from the House, running against Senator Ileana Garcia, who you may have heard, had talked a little bit about and comparing abortions and safe abortions to plastic surgery in garages, and says that being gay is temporary, right? You may have seen it. Then, doubled down 2 weeks ago, we're talking about some of these bans on our bodies. saying that they were doing a favor to survivors of human trafficking because they made them less marketable to their pimps. And so that was her rationale for why that bill was a good bill for survivors of human trafficking. And so Representative Rico is smart, determined, has had a tremendous amount of success in the House, and we hope to have him in the Senate as another one of those voices. As we go up, we're in Orlando, and let's talk about Joy Goff-Marcel, another member of the Florida House who has done a tremendous amount of work in her community, is a dynamic lover of the environment, and cares deeply about making sure that our environment is protected, as we all do, but that is one of her platform issues, and she is one who is out there, been walking, ready to go. Then we move over to some of our incumbents. We have Senator Cruz, who is over in the Tampa area. We want to work very hard to make sure that we keep her in the Florida Senate. She has been a dynamo, another Latin American woman who cares deeply about these issues and wants to make sure that kids have a safe place to go to school. Talking about lead in the pipes in her kids' school was one of those things that were very important to her. And then we also have Lorraine Osley in Leon County, another incumbent protect. And so I think those are those 5 seats that we work. But I think, again, it can't just be us talking about these things. We have to have voter registration. We have to have people behind it. And to Representative Daly's point, bringing people along. And I'm not just friends who are Democrats, independents, right? We got to pull some of those so that we can continue to grow who and what we are in our numbers.
No, that's fine. I just wanted, before we get to the representatives, I just wanted to also add in one point, and then it can be from the representatives, because you've covered plenty, and those are great. I'm glad to hear those names. I want to talk specifically because I just saw the lovely Linda Thompson-Gonzalez arrive, running for House District 100, former House District 93, and she's part of the reason why I asked this question. We have an issue in this party with Democrats not supporting people for that particular seat, which is still Republican held. So that's kind of why I wanted to ask this question. She was kind of the inspiration for it. What are we going to do specifically to support Democrats that are having trouble getting Democrats to support them? So, you can pick whoever goes first. You can pick.
Well, look, and thank you for the clarification of the question. And what I'll tell you, let me start off kind of 30,000 foot, right? So last cycle, the Florida Democratic Party put a Democrat in every House race in the state. And I'll be honest, yes, it was an accomplishment. It was an accomplishment. And it was an accomplishment that we didn't really know how it was going to play out. And so maybe a popular opinion, maybe an unpopular opinion. At the time, I kept my mouth shut. I said, kudos to the party for being organized enough to do that. Awesome. The problem that you had was it wasn't strategic. So you had this candidate that you had just fielded in a panhandle seat that's a plus 10 or plus 15 Republican seat. You convinced them, you said, wow, you're gonna be awesome, you're gonna be our candidate, we're gonna be, helping you out, we got your back. And then as soon as they filed, the party disappeared. Right? And basically fed them to the wolves. And all that did, one, was put a bad taste in that person's mouth who was willing to step up and serve. But two, I venture to guess, if you looked at the numbers, America probably has, you increased Republican turnout in parts of the state that we really didn't want to do that, right? I mean, look, and I'll give you a perfect example. There's a member from the Panhandle, a Republican member who's going to actually retiring early from the House, J.R. Williamson. I don't agree with him politically on anything, but he'll probably back me up on this. He's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. You're not going to beat him in that seat. And what you did was you drove out Republican turnout to go out and vote top of ticket. Maybe these guys and gals were going to stay home. Maybe they said, well, we don't really want to vote for Trump, but my boy Jair's on the ballot and I got to get there for Jair, right? So you drove turnout whether you meant to or not. So I gave you that example because I think we need to be strategic. I think we need to look at seats like Linda's. I think we need to look at seats in Miami, the Adam Bena, Demi Busada Cabrera seat. There's a couple others in the Tampa area. There's a bunch in the Osceola Seminole area, right? I think we have to be strategic. We have to pick our battles, kind of like the Senate, right? The leader just identified 5 seats. Well, there's 40 seats in the Senate. You don't see them trying for all 40 seats. They're trying to be strategic. Because, by the way, if you guys didn't know, resources aren't unlimited. And the Republicans are generally funded. They're generally given, 5, 6, 7 times the amount of money that the Democrats are. So if I ask for a check for $1,000, I mean, the Republicans are getting 20 grand. I mean, it's insane, but that's the reality of the situation because of the way that the balance of power is in Tallahassee at this moment. So to answer your question, I think we need to be strategic. I think we have a situation where you have a couple of Democrats who, on key issues like the right to choose, they're not with us, right? It's a different situation, I think, if it's an industry fight, right? If it's the trial bar versus the insurance industry, and a couple of Democrats in seats in a different part of the state want to vote one way or the other, that's a different fight. That's okay. I think you should have diversity of thought, right, in the caucus. But to your point, there are certain key kind of pillars of our party that I don't know that you can really or should really break with. And I think that's one of the reasons, without getting too political here and there's a primary, but that's one of the reasons that an awesome, rock star, amazing, super awesome candidate that rhymes with can't got into that state house race against one of our colleagues. And she's awesome, and it was Ashley Gant, by the way. My rhymes weren't as good. But I'll tell you, like, that's what we need. We need people that are willing to step up and in those key seats run, right? And we should, to a certain extent, encourage that. But all in all, I think the overall message is we need to be strategic and we need to be smart with our time and our resources. That's why you've heard me mention a couple of those seats. If you have spare time on a Saturday, make phone calls for Andrew Learning. Make phone calls for any of the 5 people that Leader Book just mentioned. Go down to Miami and knock on doors. I'll be there with you, right? We can do a whole thing, because those are the seats that we need to ultimately pick up to move the balance of power.
Good. I love it. For me, first off, being one of the newer members, I've been learning to just kind of understand how they're voting, what their district is looking like, and why they're voting like that. So for me, being on the inside, I have that conversation with them. I kind of sit down and pick their brain a little bit. For those who don't know, I am a therapist. I put on that hat with them. On the flip side, one of the greatest things that I learned when I was on the board of BYD was how large this organization is, how large our reach was. After Donald Trump had got elected, we had record number of BYD members that were coming out, and the things that we were doing, the Broward Democratic Party could not stand up. They were coming here for even in the summertime when it slowed down. And so one of the things I got an opportunity to learn is how we are different from other young up and down the state. And so I remember somebody posed a question about going up and helping them out, and at the time I was naive. I was like, no, we have our own struggle and our own fight down here, and you guys should work with the nearest city to you. I think it was with Vero Beach over there. And so, but being where I'm at now and being on the floor and recognizing how much help I need from other seats to be filled and flipped, I'm no longer in that mind state where I can't just worry about my district. I have to get out. I gotta knock on doors for my man to the left and my leader to the right. And so it's one of those things that we have to begin reaching out to the next community, identifying them, identifying who do we want to reach out, and get on a bus and get up there for one day and do a call of action for those candidates if we want to see change. We can't no longer sit in our silos. We can't sit in our bubbles. We have to step outside our bubbles. We gotta have that conversation. Majority of the time why they're winning is because we're just not reaching out to them. We're not having that conversation, and part of the reason is they have that money. You have Fox News and all those types of news channels that they're blasting in their community, and that's all they know, and they really don't see down here. As a matter of fact, I learned this, that a lot of people don't even count from West Palm down part of Florida because we're so unique in that aspect. And so we have to begin stepping outside our boundaries, and that's what I'm doing. I'm stepping outside my boundaries, and I'm talking to whomever. I don't care what party, what ethnicity, you're from. I just want to have that conversation so that we can begin moving something, because there's things that we agree on, and there's things that we can get done together if you just have that conversation. Communication is key.
Thank you. All right, so we have time for just a couple questions from the crowd. So raise your hand if you want to ask a question. All right, so we have one of our board members, Patrice.
Hello, everybody. Okay, so I'm listening to you wonderful legislators, and I have a question as to the camaraderie of the legislators who have the same principles. I'm wondering if there's like some type of mentorship, or like you guys have camaraderie meetings to make sure that you guys are on the same page and your strategy is the same, and that you guys are spreading that towards like the community. Because like I don't think that we have time to like be playing catch up, especially when it comes to like I've been a part of the BYDs for a long time, and I know like we always push like the young Democrats to be like, you should run for something, right? But like we have people, as Lauren mentioned, who are like 80, 90, who's been in the legislative system like for their whole entire life. They know they are 16, there are a million steps ahead of us. So like I don't see how like we can have that, and we know that that's happening, and like we're not working together to make sure that we know exactly how to get the work done. And I want to say like principles that affect the regular working class. So especially when we're coming to housing, I mean, I believe that the working class is the majority. However, the majority is not being represented. I'm trying to represent it when it comes to affordable housing. Specifically, I mean, I do real estate, and with the real estate system, like working class can't afford to live here, not in Broward County. Working class cannot afford to live here. So why is it that Nikki came to our meeting last month talking about how no one spoke about the affordable housing in the legislative session? If we're having these conversations, I'm just curious. I'm curious.
All right, while I walk the mic back up, I want to remind everybody to thank your servers tonight and give them big fat tips.
I'll just start with this. Number one, we have done a terrible job up until now at developing a bench. A terrible job. A terrible, terrible job. One of the things when I became the leader was a commitment to my caucus and a commitment to myself, really, to build a bench and to go out and do listening sessions and to go out and grow those individuals to come, because we do need better representation of our state, whether it's younger individuals, those in the Hispanic community, and the African American community. We're doing some roundtables next week that Mr. Escobar is joining us at, because we talked about different voices being at the table. So I think we've done a terrible job, and we're going to continue to work harder at that. And then I will say this to you. To say that affordable housing hasn't been discussed in the legislature isn't fair. That's not accurate either. One of the things that our caucus has been working on, and we are working on a summer project of affordable housing and workforce housing. Our chief of staff, Maggie Gerson, has been working alongside our staff with the University of Florida at how we can study the issue of affordable housing, and we won't hold it against the University of Florida. I'm a Canes girl myself, but how we can make sure that we are addressing those issues. And it's not a simple fix, and to Representative's point, it's not a 60-day fix. This is something that we have to be spending a lot of time, energy, effort, and attention on. It's developing and talking to developers on how we make sure there's workforce housing in areas. We talked about this last week at the Hispanic Caucus meeting. You can't build to the east, you can't build to the west, so you gotta build up. And what does that look like here? And being smart and strategic about how we address those things. And so I don't think it's fair to say that that was never addressed. There were bills on affordable housing. We at both caucuses have fought tooth and nail to the death of protecting Sadowski and some of those other affordable housing programs. So it's not fair to say. I think it's easy to say that when you're not actually in the weeds of the legislative process every single day. And so I would suggest that maybe we don't get things done necessarily the way that we would like to, because again, we're the minority in both the houses. And so we don't get always to do and wave a wand to fix things the way we would like to. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes sometimes creating really great ideas that they steal from us, but that's okay, because we don't have pride in authorship and just want to fix the problem. And so with that, I'm going to hand it to you guys.
Thank you for that, Leader Book. For me, one of the things that I've been doing since being in office is I've been running into a lot of young, energized individuals that are focused on change. And so first off, I had to recognize the platform I had, because I think I was grounding myself a little bit, trying to keep myself normal, but not recognizing the position. I was seeing these kids, these individuals come up to me with stars in their eyes saying, "Wow, you are amazing." I was like, well, I haven't even voted on my first bill yet. But but what yes, I am. But what I've been doing is I've been collecting their information. I started this mentorship program where it's just we talk, we drop the conversation piece within our bubble, and we just talk about it. These are people from around the state that I've run to, students I've talked to at FAMU, FSU, down here at Barry University, up and down the state. Whoever I run into, they reach out. I tell them, meet with my team. Let's bring them in, and we try to help them learn how to get engaged into their process. And I'm not saying they're going to become representatives or county commissioners, but a lot of people don't know that there are boards that they can get on in helping their city and local officials, and being that voice on that board and giving them that new perspective. So tell them how to do that. Paying attention that when positions or internships come available, that they have that opportunity. One of the things I just thought I'm thinking of is getting an intern just to help me with communication. Somebody that's probably in communication and trying to help them get themselves off the ground, and just to help them get the experience and have it on a resume. And so it's kind of like thinking out the box with the very little that we have, because as state legislators, we don't have that much to finance. But it's kind of like we can't not dropping the ball on this energized community that wants to get involved. And so that's what I've been doing.
For those wondering, by the way, Representative Campbell does need an intern, because I follow him on social media and he could do so much better. So no, and look, you made an excellent point, Patrice. We, and the leader already mentioned it, we have done an abysmal job of building a bench in this state. And now you look at the other side of the aisle, you look at the Republicans, and I'm not saying that we should emulate everything they do, but they are in lockstep when it comes to building that bench, right? They have it all worked out. They decide, and I'm not saying this is right either, they decide who's running for what, at what level, and what position, and well, these two people filed, well, we need to find something else for that other person, and they have it down to a science, so much so that you're now seeing them progress past starting their candidates at the city commission or mayor level, and now you're seeing them flood into school boards, right? And by the way, God bless Nora Rupert and every other school board member in Broward County, because the heat that school boards have taken the last couple of years, in particular Broward, but all across this state, is really, really important, right? And so you need good people to run for your school board races. You need good people to run at your local level. And they're doing right. They're infiltrating. I think to use the word infiltrating, but infiltrating like PTAs and the boards and committees. And I'm glad to hear Rep. Campbell mention the thoughts of starting future candidates at the board level and the volunteer level, because I'll tell you an example. That's where I started, folks. That's where I started. I was a volunteer on a couple of city boards. Mayor Arcerio, right, elected mayor, young Democrat, started at the board level, right? That's where so many folks, because you learn, you meet the people. Remember I mentioned a couple minutes ago that 99% of this is relationships. So it's meeting those people who are playing in all of the races and all these different seats and everything else, building those relationships, and then deciding to ultimately run for that seat. And when the time comes, you have the opportunity, you can move on to the next level, like I did in the case of the city commission running for a special election. So to your point, we need to do a better job of that. And I know the leader, myself, and Rep. Campbell are committed to doing that. So if there's anybody that wants information, where can I join a board? How do I join a board? How do I do this? What's the road path? What's the path? We're happy to do that. To your point on affordable housing, listen, I can tell you that there were bills filed and have been filed year after year after year on affordable housing, but if they're not getting heard, that's an issue, right? I mean, I filed Jamie's Law after Jamie Guttenberg that would require a background check on ammunition. It's never seen the light of day in 3 sessions that I filed it in Tallahassee, right? Because the numbers are the numbers, and that's the reality of the situation that we have. And I'm not even saying, listen, it would be a great thing. The Democrats were able to take over the state legislature. That'd be amazing. But even just on the House side, just some balance. Just to the point where you had some leverage you could negotiate, because right now, with the couple of members that Madam President mentioned earlier, when they flip and vote with the Republicans on certain issues, they basically have a supermajority, right? So that's the only way we're going to fix this situation. I'm not saying that we're going to take over the House this year. Man, wouldn't that be cool, right? But I'm saying we've got to be strategic and we've got to get closer to that balance, because that's the only way that bills on affordable housing and the other issues that are important, not just to us as Democrats, but to all Floridians, get heard and move through the process in Tallahassee.
Thank you for that. All right, so I see one more hand raised. Just one quick thing I want to say. We need to focus on perception as reality too, because I think it's important that what happened in Tallahassee is not what was reflected to the larger populace, and we need to do a better job as Democrats of touting what we do, not just about we are good guys because we're Democrats. That's not what this is about. It's not Team Blue versus Team Red. It's this is what we stand for, this is what we believe in, this is what we're trying to get done, and if you vote for more of us, we can actually get these things through. So that's my little 2 cents on that. And another question here.
Thank you. My name is Raj Selvaraj, and I'm a current senior at MSD High School. My question is for Rector. I've attended a lot of BYD meetings over the year, over the time, and I always bring my wonderful friends with me to get people involved. However, it is no secret that our generation does not vote. You know, political efficacy is very low for our generation. So, what are some of the strategies that you have seen that motivate students like myself and my friends to get out the vote? What are some strategies that work for that? Thank you.
First and foremost, thank you for the question, and thank you for being involved, and as involved as you are, right? And bringing your friends, whether you had to bribe them with pizza or not, I don't know, but you got them here, and that's great. By the way, all of you have to bring another person to the next meeting, so we're looking at 6 people in your crew this time. You know, look, for me, and I'll tell you, and I'll try and be as brief as I can. Normally, your typical politician, if you give them the option of going to a bagel breakfast at a condo community, God bless, you know, my condo community, Kings Point, I love them all, going to a bagel breakfast at a condo community, or going to speak to a classroom full of high school students, 99% of the time, that politician's gonna choose the bagel breakfast. Why? Because it doesn't matter if it's raining, shining, sleeting, snowing in South Florida, right? Those people at the bagel breakfast are gonna go to the polls and they're gonna vote, right? So 99% of the time, the politician goes there because they can count on those people. Me, and this is not to pat myself on the back, I enjoy going to the school setting. I enjoy going to the high schools and to the colleges and having that connection and having that conversation so I can try and make a connection. We have to do better. We have to do better at connecting what we're talking about, what we want to do, and why it matters to them. Every classroom that I walk into, right, did it a couple weeks ago, said, how many of you have a driver's license? Here, let's do it. How many of you have a driver's license? That's government. How many of you pay for your own gas? Kind of controversial these days. That's government, right? How many of you have insurance? That's government, right? You have to find a way to connect it. And the example I always give, and sometimes the mayor of Coral Springs is with me and kind of cringes when I give this example, but I said, we focus on the presidential race and the governor's race, and going back to what I said earlier, right? They're sexy and everybody's paying attention to them. But who can have a bigger impact on your life quicker? The president of the United States or the mayor of your city? Mayor. The mayor, right? You've got to make that connection for people. Because, and this is the example that the mayor of Coral Springs doesn't like, I said if the mayor of Coral Springs wanted to convene an emergency meeting and add an additional $1 tax on every gallon of gasoline, would you like that? The right answer was no. Right? Would you like that? No. But did you show up and vote at the election? Probably not. All right, Claire's not allowed in my classroom. But listen, you have to, and I use that example as a ridiculous example, but you have to draw that connection. You have to say, this is why who you vote for matters. This is why voting matters, because it's your right, it's your opportunity. And by the way, anytime that they tell you, well, my vote doesn't matter, right? I know people who have lost an election by 4 votes, 5 votes, right? 3 votes, right? You all know those horror stories, but we have to do a better job of 1, getting that message out, and 2, making that connection. Thank you for being here. Thank you for continuing to drag your friends here. Drag more of them, because that's the only way that we're ever going to make a difference. And by the way, if you're good on social media, Rep. Campbell's looking great.
Yeah, do you want to touch that, or? Okay, all right. So last question, Board Member Landon.
Hello. So I'm a student in Broward County. I just finished my term as middle school president for the county. Thank you. So we see, and I talked to some students and teachers actually about this the other day, is that we're not going to have math textbooks for the start of the school year. Ms. Rupert, they talked about it at the meeting the other day, that they're going to have to make paper copies of the books because the state has not approved them. So that's ridiculous. And Ms. Rupert said, no, we're going to have paper copies. It is not, see, I watch those meetings, not many people do. But we're not going to have it on the computer. It needs to be hardcover. So what is the plan to get these books expedited? I know it doesn't go to the legislator, but what can the legislature do to solve this issue? Thank you.
For the record, Landon is probably the record holder for youngest BYD board member. So, and we love it.
First of all, Landon, you're my favorite kid that I've ever met. That is pretty
Thank
awesome.
you.
Like,
Thank you.
And that is how we raise civically minded kids to grow up to be here. And so I would suggest, unfortunately, the legislature can't do a lot. However, knowing the dynamics is important. One of the members that I serve with, Senator Diaz, has now been moved to the Commissioner of Education. We've seen this last legislative session a real push by the governor and the Republicans to quite literally take us back in time, right? To ban books, to burn books. And going through and systematically kind of taking out, and we saw some of those examples of some of those math texts that they have found questionable. I think that again, we've said it, we've heard it, we've all talked about it, we clapped when we said it, but it is the reality here. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. That is the reality of what happens, and I think both of my co-panelists have also said, elections have consequences. That is what is happening here. And we have continued to allow this path to occur. And so we've got to really continue to have that fight. And I think that one of the things that I like you, I watch it, and I know Kayla watches a lot of these education board meetings, right? State board meetings, having the conversations. How do these texts come to be or become banned, or what do the standards look like? Within the Don't Say Gay bill, and I want to talk about this really quickly, there was a piece that didn't really get talked about a lot, but has real consequences for children in our state, and that is the camel's nose under the tent of what they are going to do. And they are going to look at and review every single piece of educational material, not just textbooks, not just curricula, but lesson plans, benchmarks, everything that happens in a school day. And now a Republican appointee has the ability to control every single aspect of our children's education. Every single aspect. So if you think what has happened is bad, it's about to get worse. Because guess what? When we talked about a different bill, the banning of books. You don't even have to have, and Ms. Rupert knows this, and those who hope to be on the school board know this, you don't even have to have a child in the district to complain about a piece of material that you are unhappy with. And so we've seen movements of people, not just in the state of Florida, but across the country, to go in and object to the Diary of Anne Frank because they find it to be offensive. And the Bluest Eye, what else? Beloved. These great, beautiful pieces of literature that all of us have grown up reading and informing who and what we are, that are now banned in libraries and schools throughout the state. Even a book by Eric Carle that was banned. And so I think that while we can interject in some of those state board meetings and put pressure on the new Commissioner of Education, the outgoing Commissioner of Education, we can have those conversations. But again, you're seeing a lot of these things play out, and again, you're seeing that absolute power corrupting absolutely, and the governor putting in more right Republicans in school board races throughout the state of Florida. And this is happening, and it is continuing down a path. And unless we get those people out in November and have the conversations, it's never going to change. And so I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts.
Yeah, and that was a great point, and I'll add to that. How do we get that message out? It comes to messaging. It comes to communication. So you yourself are an individual. Look at what your connections are. You're part of the BYD. That's a coalition right there. Plus on top of the coalitions that they already know and they partner with. Plus on top of those coalitions that they already know, and trying to come together with them, everybody, and bringing them into the group and saying, hey, we need to have a messaging day where we're consistently knocking a message out to these individuals that have a say over what is important. The journalists, the governor, all the commissioners of education, just keeping the compensation piece going, so that when people check their timelines, I know you guys seen this on IG where you're not even following anybody, but that you get in people's stuff that you don't follow on your timeline, so that is flooding the timelines and messing with the metrics. And so we just got to keep our foot on the pedal and connecting the dots and keeping everybody in the loop on what is going on, because it is so much going on. Let me tell you, when I got in, I was fighting for me to get seated, but at the same time, I'm sitting looking at the House committee defend the 15-week abortion bill, and they kicked everybody out because people came up and they protest inside of the chambers, just letting them know that, look, this is what's going on. This is my story, and I'm here to tell it. And so they try to rush them out, and that was a big piece. And so there's so much pieces going on at the same time. We just have to pick those dates as far as hitting them with this message. Next week, we're going to hit you with this message. And then following that, the next day, we're going to hit you back with this message. And we just got to keep doing it. We just got to be repetitive, be on a routine about it, and we can't give up.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody for sticking around. I know we're running a little late tonight. Did anyone on our panel have anything left to say? Yeah.
Really, really quick, because the deadline is Monday and I might have dropped the ball a little bit. If anybody would do me the honor of filling out a petition, we have petitions. If anybody wants a Dan Daily t-shirt, these are not Netflix and chill t-shirts. These are like go to the gym, go out in public t-shirts. If you would like a t-shirt, we have those as well. Thank you for having us, and thank you for doing this, because this is how we get the message out. This is how we have the conversation. So thank you to BYDs.
Thank you very much to our panelists tonight. Thank you guys for sticking around, for being flexible with our location shift and all of that. If you want to start lining up for good and welfare, in the meanwhile, we'll start with our endorsed candidate, Clay Miller, and we'll go from there.
What's up? Hey, guys, good to see everybody. First off, to our 3 reps, amazing job, Senator, 2 representatives. First off, to the person that was singing happy birthday, happy birthday to you. I know you got more than you bargained for at La Pizzeria tonight, but I promise we're good people. In front of the, oh, wow, technology's really advanced since I was president. Look, this election, we hear the same thing every time, most important of our lifetime, and then they say, oh, but this time it really is all of that. We're used to hearing this. I want to tell you something similar, but something a little different version of that, and that's why I'm running in this race. This is the election where we young people take over forever. So we don't have to keep saying that's the most important election of our lifetime. I love our elders. I want to work with them. I want to collaborate with them, and I look forward to that. But the way that things have been done clearly isn't working. It's our chance right now to seize the day, seize the party, and seize how things are done here in the state of Florida. And that starts with BYD. We're the largest BYD, or the largest Young Democrats organization in the entire country. If anyone is going to seize it, it's going to be the people in this room. So I really want to work with you on that. A lot of you know who I am. I'm Clay Miller. I'm a former BYD president. I worked for Broward County Commissioner Beam Fur. I'm running for State House District 101. I just officially qualified by petition. So glad to have that over with. And I'm honored to have BYD's endorsement. Nancy doing such an amazing job. I could barely do it without kids, and the way Nancy is doing it, coming out of COVID, raising a family, and the rest of the board is amazing too. Landon, when I was your age, I literally ate a stick of butter like it was a candy bar, so pretty impressive. Look, this election's not about me, it's about our future. Not just my seat, all of these seats. So we need to all get involved with young candidates, knock on doors, organizing the community. There it goes. Oh, technology. And so I need you to come knock on doors with me. We're knocking this Sunday, May 15th, down in Hollywood. And we're knocking June 4th as well, huge canvas launch. We've already knocked on 5,000 doors. It's a lot of fun. You need service hours. I can attest that I do that very well. I got the hookup. If you don't need service hours because you are out of high school, I will give you the eternal gift of my friendship. As Dan said, we never forget it. So I really look forward to working with you. I'm really, truly honored. And please, don't forget, this is our chance. It really is. This is really, it's very dark times, but this is our opportunity to seize things and change things forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Clay. As you can see, we were in good hands with him beforehand. That's why BYD is such a strong organization. Coming up next, we have Mayor Arcerio from Margate.
1 minute.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to the great city of Margate. I couldn't be more thrilled to have everybody here. I want to thank Guido, the owner of a pizzeria, for making this arrangement last minute. I'll take part of the blame. There's a little miscommunication, but when I called them up and said I got about 40, 50 people coming, they said, great, when do you want to come? And I said like 5 minutes ago. So thank you again for making that happen. And I just want to thank two of our panelists, Senator Book and Representative Daley. I can tell you in Margate, my first term in office, we had Representative Jacobs pass away. We were without a representative, and I know it was nice to reach out to Representative Daley to help us get some bills sponsored for appropriations. And this past session, Senator Book helped us out a little bit, working with Christine Huptrowski, because Senator Thurston was our senator, and he had to resign to run. So thank you for working with us. It's very important that we all get involved, whether it's at the state level or the city level. It doesn't matter. We've got to get involved. Yes, the local city races are not sexy, but they are very important. As it was mentioned today, that your mayor, your commissioner, your school board member affects your day-to-day lives more directly than any other position in elected office. I am running for re-election. I do have 2 Republicans running against me, so if anyone wants to come knock on doors or help out in any way, I'd gladly appreciate it. So thank you for coming out to Margate, and I look forward to a relocation in Hollywood.
Thank you very much, Mayor. All right, next up we have Ian Dunn, and I'm just going to remind everyone, just because I know people are trying to wrap up their checks and get their petition signed and all that, let's keep it to 1 minute, please. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Ian Dunn. I'm one of your 2 national committee representatives along with Maria Rodriguez. Yes, I'm here. I just wanted to keep you guys updated what FYD is doing. We have put in an interest forms for later this year to host the next YDA meeting. We are in competition with Buffalo, New York to make that happen. And I am hoping to be the next third vice president by the time that comes around. I am one of probably many applicants to be the next third vice president of the Young Democrats of America, and we are hoping that the next meeting will happen in Miami, Florida. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Yes, please, Miami. You don't have to drive to Jacksonville. All right, next up, Hava.
Thank you so much, Nancy. It's great to be here with the Broward Young Democrats, and thanks so much for the work you and your team do, and also for Moms Demand Action. I'm Hava Holzhauer. I'm running for Congress in the seat that is being vacated by Congressman Ted Deutsch, now number 23. We need people in Congress, we need people governing who put people first, who think through a lens of society and humanity. Our governor, I liked what Senator Book said, Death Santis. I like to say I've got 4 kids, and a nod to Harry Potter, he who will not be named. He doesn't do that. He works through a lens of fear, of marginalization, and of hate. And he harms, and he doesn't help, and he doesn't focus on what we really need in Florida. So we need congresspersons and legislators who see people first. I'm a fighter, I'm an advocate. I have been fighting for us my entire life as a civil rights attorney, as an assistant state attorney in the 15th Judicial Circuit. I also ran the Anti-Defamation League statewide in Florida. And I see through, thank you. I see through a lens of humanity and of people and of equality and of fairness. And the job of a legislator or a congressperson, if you think about it, it's really 2 things. It's writing bills that hopefully or maybe, hopefully not, become laws, and it's spending your money, spending taxpayer money. So when people in Congress are making decisions
2 minutes.
about affordable housing,
I was trying to give you the signal.
about climate, about healthcare, about abortion, they need to be doing it through the lens that I'm talking about. So I need to wrap up quickly, so I'll conclude with this. People run for office for 2 reasons. It's either to be somebody, it's the ego, or it's to do something. I have a 20-plus year track record of doing things in this community, in this state, that help people. So vote Hava for your next congresswoman. Reach out. I'm happy to talk more. Any group. Thanks so much.
Chancito.
Buenas noches. So my name is John Moreno Escobar. I'm running for School Board District 6, and I'm upset. I'm going to be honest tonight. I'm not going to have my regular campaign speech. I attended all the rallies that we did here in Broward, and Senator Book and the other elected officials that were here, they were saying they're coming for other races. They're coming for the school board, they're coming for the commission, they're coming for the mayor, they're coming for every single thing that we see.
Good to see you.
They are lining up individuals to run against every single school board seat that is open. The governor just appointed a person to our school board, and that person is not allowed to run again. But that person is running against our Representative Daley right there in the back, and we have to make sure that he is not, an opponent that could tread his seat. So I am here because I'm a parent, I'm an advocate for our community, but also I'm here because I do believe that we need new leadership in our school board. We need young blood, we need individuals that can get stuff done for our kids, and stop having meetings about things that we really don't need to be discussing right now. So again, if you want to volunteer, if you want to donate, if you want to get involved, please reach out after the meeting. They tell me to wrap up. So thank you for your time here at the meeting, and next.
Hey, good evening everybody. My name is Raymond Abilene. I'm the youngest candidate to run for Broward County School Board. And that in itself was history in the making. And Landon and I work together, so I'm just announcing nobody can have it. Let me stop right now. Okay. But let me just start off in saying this. No matter how much money is put into this race, this seat will not be bought because it belongs to every single child in Broward County. Every single child. From day one, this race has never been about me. It's never been about me starting a political career, but it's been about John in the back of the classroom that's struggling because he doesn't know if he's going to pass that next test. It's about Emma that sits while she's on her menstrual cycle and doesn't know how she's going to get access to a tampon. It's about every single child like that I entered this race and that I'm all the more dedicated to. Look forward to speaking to more people soon, but we need your help. So go to RaymondAdderley.com, read more about us, donate there, and let's make history together.
Hello, everybody. Okay, so yeah, we spoke a lot about anger today. I'm a bit angry. I just wanted to remind everybody to breathe. Like, it is important to breathe. So I am a part of a couple different organizations that are community grassroots organizations, and we are creating a rec room, a community rec room. So what I'm asking for from you, if you do have it available, are pieces of furniture that can be wrecked that you're getting rid of. I know, like, all of us are, you're ready for some new furniture, things like that. We are going to be
right back with your change.
furniture. And we're going to be laying down and daydreaming about what we would like our future to look like. So if you can donate, please just go ahead and contact me. I'm in the room right now. You guys can just let me know. And you'll see a couple of posts from different organizations, like Freedom Defenders, the Alliance, Black Futures Alliance, and a couple of other organizations, right? So yeah, that's all that I have for you right now.
Hi everyone, I'm Mark Mitchell. I am here today to talk about the 911 dispatch problem that we have in our county. Something that's not as sexy as candidates. But you know, one thing we have to find in Broward County is ways to reduce our reliance on 911 being the first and only responder. The Sheriff's Office on tomorrow will be presenting a budget request to our commission for $28.5 million to increase their capacity to respond to 911 dispatch calls without ever exploring solutions to rerouting calls or using alternatives that are more appropriate, especially for people who have specialized needs like mental health and medical crises, for wellness checks when there is no threat to public safety. So I'm really encouraging all of you to reach out to the commission on tomorrow. It's item number 51, and ask your commissioners to explore alternatives to 911 dispatch. And instead of throwing $28.5 million at the Sheriff's Department on top of the $3.5 million that they've already gotten this year to increase the capacity of their dispatch department, they should explore solutions that reduce reliance on 911 and use some of the professionals in our community who are skilled with dealing with specialized needs of our folks who are in crisis. Again, that's item 51. Please reach out to the commission on tomorrow and speak about this crisis that we have in our community. Thank you.
Is there a place where they can go to get talking points or anything like that?
Yeah, there's tons of talking points.
Do they come to you to get them?
Yeah, I can.
All right. All right, if you need talking points, talk to Mark. Don't be afraid to call up your commissioners. I don't know how many of you regularly reach out to your elected officials, but whenever you feel nervous about it, someone's always got talking points if they're asking you to reach out. Just make sure you talk to Mark.
Who needs talking points?
There you go. All right, and last but not least, Linda Thompson-Gonzalez.
I'm going to really quick. 3 things to say. I'm Linda Thompson-Gonzalez. We are going to flip District 100.
Yeah!
This organization is the organization that's going to help make it happen. So thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Clay. Thank you for all the leaders in this room. Senator Rep. Daley and Representative Darrell Campbell. You are my neighbor. We got a lot of work to do. We're going to flip this seat. Last of all, just say if you haven't, please sign my petition so I can get on ballot in November. We're going to make this happen. You're going to help me make this happen. This is going to be a great day for District 100.
thank you everyone tonight. Thank you for those of you that stuck around especially. Really appreciate all of you. Like I said, next month we'll be having a social down in Hollywood. Keep an eye on our social media, our emails, all of that to join us for that. And as Rep. Daly said, bring a friend. Thank you. Good night.